if you can get a book in the hand of a kid, it's phenomenal. If you can get a book in a kid's hand and they get to meet that author and they get to hear about the book and they get to hear about the process, odds of them picking that book up and reading it are just tenfold. And so it's really important to get these authors and these students connected. So what we wanted to make sure with the Noble Neighbor is maybe in some school systems that are underserved and don't have necessarily the funds to buy the books, these kids aren't missing that opportunity.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, creators, and disruptors who are changing the way that business happens. My name is Tyler Kelly, and I'm here with my co-host, Miss Leanne Buchanan.
Hi, everybody.
And we're really happy because today we are joined by Miss Holland Saltsman. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So, Holland, I'm excited for this conversation because we get to talk about all things people connecting and the ways in which you do that through different mediums. So we're going to get into a little bit more about your business, but we'll start off with you. So for folks that don't know you, you are the owner of The Novel Neighbor, and I love your tagline, where people, art, and books meet. So talk to us a little bit about kind of the confluence of those things and why it's meaningful to you.
Sure. We are almost 6 years old, and when I was sort of figuring out, as we all do, what I was going to be when I grew up next, what the next chapter was, if you will, I just was missing connections with people, and books have always been a really important part of my life. But I also was trying to figure out what other passions, and I love local art and love local crafts, and what people are doing in St. Louis is pretty incredible. So I didn't really find any place that merged those three. So when I was looking for something along those lines, I thought, well, if it's not here, maybe I can pull it together. And so we knew we wanted books to be the focus, but we certainly wanted, at the very beginning, we brought in about 30 local artists so that they could have a place to show their wares that, you know, if they couldn't be at festivals and things along those lines, and then to have a community meeting space. So from the very get-go, when we did an Indiegogo to kind of see what the interest was and to get it going, we sort of talked about a revolution and who wanted to be part of bringing people back together. And so far, it's been incredible.
And what is your superpower?
My superpower, I would say connectivity. I mean, it is, I meet people all the time and they want to know how they know me, but I've had like 6 different jobs here in St. Louis. I moved here for one and meant to stay for a couple of years and head back to Kentucky or the East Coast where I'd spent some time. But now it's the opportunity to, whether it's a book event or whether it's a local artist or whether it's something we want to host, it's just pulling people together that might not have normally kind of been in the same room.
And what has been your favorite connection experience through The Novel Neighbor?
Okay, personally, I'll be really cheesy and say hanging out with Andrew McCarthy. He wrote a young adult book, so there was a lot of us women of a certain age and a few men who were very excited to meet him. He was charming. It was lovely. But then we also got to host Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. And and she'd written a kid's book. So children were in the audience getting to ask the questions. And she was just so accessible and inspiring and incredible. And then I'd round it out with Dave Pilkey, who writes the Captain Underpants and Dogman series. And we did an event with him last summer at Chaffetz. We had 5,000 people. It was his biggest event. It was our biggest event. And to see kids, it's like rock star status. And he struggled with reading, and he's so engaged, and he stayed and met and signed. And it just was, to be able to see kids that excited, and he's just one of the most generous authors I've ever met.
I love it.
Well, definitely my son's favorite author. He's an eight-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that's what got him into reading, really.
And that's, I mean, I think he's a gateway for so many kids, and it's funny. And I think once they get the opportunity to see an author and then hear their story, it just makes them feel so much better that they're not a super reader, and it's okay. They'll get there.
Definitely. So in the age of Amazon, why launch a bookstore? Like, I get the community and the art piece, but why books?
So I think especially kids want books in their hands, and kids want to be off screens occasionally. Like it's just there's an opportunity still that people want to hold on to something. They want to connect with the authors. They want to come in and talk. I talked with a woman today on the phone for 15 minutes about a romance mystery and what does that look like. And you're not going to get any live person anywhere to talk to you online if you're looking for a particular thing. Or we also do things called mystery boxes, where if you've got somebody hard to shop for, or if you just want to treat yourself, you just tell me 2 or 3 things about you. I like true crime, gardening, and sci-fi. And then you leave it up to me for $50 to put something together for you, or for a gift for somebody, or an in-law, or for some kids. And so it's just, we have the opportunity to personalize and make it an experience as opposed to a click of a button.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What's been one of your biggest challenges? Because I'm sure it isn't easy.
Sure. Sort of that. It's like I can save $5 if I shopped online, or I can get free shipping or something along those lines. But we try to, in the nicest way possible, talk a little bit about how I employ people from this area. Mm-hmm. I pay taxes, which a certain someone online does not. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you pay taxes more than a billionaire, it's a little bit hard to digest. And when you can kind of explain that, and we donate to welcome to St. Louis, every auction, trivia, things, for the community and outskirts. And then we do lots of kids programs with the authors, or booked themed birthday parties, or camp. Well, when we can meet live again. And so just all those opportunities, it makes people get that, yeah, I might spend a couple more dollars because we value being able to come in and kind of have that personalized service.
And that personalized service I'm getting from your energy and your love and superpower for connection is that there's a curation to it.
Yes.
As you think about the experiences, the events, and even bringing in artists along with, authors and space, I want to understand what are the steps or ingredients, if you will, that go into that process of creating something magical.
Yes. I don't know. And I know what I like, and then I know what other people like. I'll just be, just kind of listening what's happening in St. Louis, what new artists are coming, what people are talking about. Somebody might bring it to my attention and things like that. But I don't know we talk about it. People will come in and say, oh, this is my happy place. Or I just, can I be here, just for half an hour? We're like, you can be here all day. Like, we're happy for people to come and feel good when they walk in the door. And, we'll try some things that don't work. And, you throw a couple things at a wall, maybe we'll, go, oh my God, everybody's going to want to buy this. And you're like, no one wants to buy that. And you think, okay, well, that's on sale now. Or you buy one copy of something and it's a book that 4,000 people want. Like, a lot of it is you're guessing. And we guess correctly a lot, but it's finding a good balance. So, in the middle of the store, we have an old stove that I found, on Craigslist before we opened, which is like where our cookbooks are, along with some locally made glassware, along with some locally made tea, Big Heart Tea Company. So we just kind of also, you mentioned curate. We carefully curate sort of gifts and books so that, you might not need something to read, but you might need to find something that you won't see anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that that's a great example, the stovetop, but your personality, I'm assuming, is all over the place when you walk in. Like it's you.
Yes, it very much. I mean, some people are like, well, can you share your business plan if it's somebody else that's thinking about it? I was like, business plan? It was one page of like, I think we need to put these 3 things together, and I'll work all the shifts because we don't have any money. I mean, it was crazy how little I knew. I did not have a background in business at all or retail. And it was but I was there every day, and I knew every book we had in the store, and I knew every artist that I invited in. So it was really important. I've got a great staff now, so there's lots of great energy in there, if not just me, but yeah, those first 2 years, pretty much any day, any hour, you'd find me just getting excited to talk with you about what you're looking for that day.
That's cool. Now, you mentioned that there's the books that every bookstore should have because
Yes.
they're the ones that are being promoted.
Yep.
But what about the ones that are maybe those hidden gems? How do you go about bringing those in?
Sure. Well, right now we have publisher meetings over the phone. We're not doing anything in person now. So I'm right now deciding what we're bringing in for the holidays.
Okay.
And it's a lot of a guessing game, but it's like Dolly Parton has a $50 autobiography, but you mentioned like, yeah, everybody smiles when you,
Yeah.
so do you bring in 10? Do you bring in 50? And it's, you know, you're trying to figure it out because it's a high price point, but it's Dolly Parton who loves literature as well. And, you know, or there's just something funny that has to do with, Russian literature, which was a major of mine for like 30 seconds. But, you know, but if it's a book that I'm weirdly excited about, I can maybe get some other people excited about that. So, or if I've got some staff that'll preview the catalogs, they'll maybe highlight something that I wouldn't have picked up that they're going to want to get in some people's hands. So a lot of it is just what we want to share with people. And then a lot of it is I heard Matthew McConaughey also is having an autobiography coming out. And so, you know, that one I might do a little pre-order, feel it out, or the kids, sometimes if it gets a kid series, the next Dogman, yes, I think is in maybe October, November. Anyway, we'll have a gazillion because, you know, every kid is just counting down until that book's coming out. So
I've always wondered, like, how many, let's just say monthly, how many new books would you know about, like, that are out there, and that you would have to, like, at least, you know, comb through?
It ups and downs between this different seasons and things like that. You know, starting in like September to Christmas. I mean, actually through maybe November. I mean, a release day could have possibly 40. You know, and there's more than that. But like we might be getting 40 in, and we might have 2 copies of some, 10 copies of others. But during quieter months, maybe like February, March, or the beginning of summer, we might only be getting 12 books in that are new releases that day. So we try to post on our social media channels on new release day. And since COVID had happened, we also have many of our new releases in our front window with QR codes. So if you're out taking a walk or you just want to see a little bit more information, we're trying to find ways to interact creatively.
It seems like a lot of what you do is personal and relational, which is a big distinction from go on Amazon, click, buy a book. How do you make sure that you keep that relational aspect into your work?
It was really challenging when COVID happened and we had to close the doors for people coming in. But we, lucky enough, had some online capabilities so people could find books. But we started doing lots of FaceTime shopping, and you would call me, we would FaceTime, and we would walk around the store together so that we could still. And you could be like, nope, not interested, or oh gosh, yeah, got me one of those, because it's hard to still have that experience if you're not standing right there next to me. But we still wanted to create that. So we had a lot of opportunities for that, as well as we would just send pictures. I mean, I think for an entire month of March and April, my entire phone was filled of just photos that we were like texting, because somebody would be like, we've got a birthday party coming up. He likes dinosaurs. He's 4. I'm not sure what else he's into. And we would send 30 photos, because we really wanted to make sure that we were hitting the mark and people could still get that same service without being in the store with us.
So when things, quote unquote, get back to normal, how will have your business model have changed for the best?
Sure.
Permanently.
Yeah. We started kind of the mystery boxes that I mentioned in the midst of it, and those have just been really, really, well received. We get orders for those all the time now, because it just takes something off your plate that you can help. And
I love that
and
idea.
the feedback is great, and people snap photos and they're like, oh my God, you must have known me perfectly. I mean, that is one thing that we're really excited about. We're needing to redo our whole website though, because if not now, then another time something else might happen that we're going to need to be more online. And we just needed to shift we used to have a very events heavy website, and events look different now because you can't do the in-person and a lot of the kind of fun things we would do out of the store. We now need to offer more merch and more point of sale kind of things like that. So those 2 things. But we'll still consider, they call it, I don't know if it's like virtual concierge, but yeah, we still, if anybody wants to call us, because for whatever reason they might not be able to get in. And we worked with quite a few retirement communities that we're now doing deliveries there, or kind of doing on the phone shopping with them. I mean, or just kind of working with people who can't get to us, just trying to make ourselves more accessible. And then we'll have the opportunity we used to do a lot of school visits with kids. And so we're excited to be able to kind of bring that back stronger, even though we've been able to do some virtual things as we head into fall. It's just not the same as being in the same room.
Yeah. One of the things that we've been doing through Venture Cafe is these virtual artist studio visits because it's tough for artists.
Absolutely.
And so I'm wondering how you're still engaging and supporting or working with artists during this time, or is that something that you've had to potentially put on hold in favor of just focusing on book sales?
It's actually been even bigger because they don't get to go to the festivals. So a lot of the artists that, that might have been swamped over summer of doing all the, the traveling in the region to go, work at this arts festival and, here and there, we now might be one of the only places where you can get their works. So we've made sure to kind of highlight some. And then I keep talking about doing a little Instagram happy hour, a live thing, and not only talking to other business owners, but also working with some of the artists. So like one artist a week would get on and we could talk about, and then, kind of give them a little bit of personal attention on a weekly basis. Just like you said, everyone's suffering, but especially a lot of the artists are just, it's just challenging.
What about kids? Because kids seem to be a large part of your audience. And so you're going to be able to do school visits, but what are some creative ways or things you'd love to do to be able to serve kids remotely?
We're working on that right now. We've been doing story times virtually. We've got a Where's Waldo, that we sort of have in the store, but if they can't get in the store, we're doing some things that way. We're trying to just find interactive, a lot of authors and illustrators are doing a lot of interactive fun things, and we're connecting them with those. So like Mo Willems, who does the pigeon and all of that, he was doing some drawing lessons, and we're connecting a lot of other authors and illustrators with opportunities that are kind of out there. But we're hoping to, we had started a nonprofit last summer called The Noble Neighbor. And what we were trying to do with that is we've always had author visits since we opened, connecting authors into schools and kids. If you can get a book in the hand of a kid, it's phenomenal. If you can get a book in a kid's hand and they get to meet that author and they get to hear about the book and they get to hear about the process, odds of them picking that book up and reading it are just tenfold. And so it's really important to get these authors and these students connected, but publishers definitely are looking at, well, where can we have sales? Because that's why the author's on a free tour, and we're kind of connecting all those dots. So what we wanted to make sure with the Noble Neighbor is maybe in some school systems that are underserved and don't have necessarily the funds to buy the books, these kids aren't missing that opportunity. So the Noble Neighbor raises money so that authors can go into any school, and those books then would be provided for those kids so they get the same opportunity. And so as we head into this fall, mostly online for some school, we're going to look at connecting the virtual visits as well as with our nonprofit and our traditional schools. So we're excited to keep that moving forward because it's just very essential to what we want to be doing.
I think that's fabulous. I'm thinking, as you're talking, I'm thinking about when I was a kid, and I think it was Robert Munch.
Oh, wow.
Came to one of our schools, and I remember getting the books. And I remember when I was a kid, The Paper Bag Princess was like my favorite book. And so there's that impression that you get when you realize there's a person behind the book that you're writing. And I think it's just magic. It's absolutely magic. So what is your favorite book if you had to pick one?
I do. People make me do this occasionally. So there's like different levels. So overall, forever has been The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. And it's sci-fi, which is not my genre at all. Really? At all. But I actually reread it because I read it in the mid late 90s when it first came out. And it takes place 2017 and 2054, like kind of dual timelines, which in mid-90s, 2017 sounded really far away. So I reread it before I opened the store, knowing I would get that question occasionally. And so that one kind of remains there. Kids book, because we do a lot of kids book, Rebecca Stead did When You Reach Me, and that one also still remains one of my favorites. But I have lots of different ones since we opened, and I'll usually have like a favorite for the year that I'm just like, okay, this is the one I think everyone needs to read. And if you come in, that's the one. I'll try to put it in your hands. And
so what's 2020?
The House of the Cerulean Sea, The House in the Cerulean Sea. Clune is the author, and we have a subscription service, kind of a book of the month club. And so we have it for adults or kids or anyone. And so I did end up sending it for March, but I sent it to a couple of people ahead of time because it was not traditional fiction at all. It definitely had some fantasy. It definitely was original. And so and a couple of people were like, oh my God, it's so hopeful. It's so beautiful. It's one of the best. So I'm definitely still recommending that this year.
Well, you know what time it is.
Oh, okay.
It's time for the lightning round.
Okay, good. I've been excited about
I
this.
was like, where did the time
I
go?
know.
I could
Yeah.
talk
I'm
about
gonna-
books all day.
Come see us.
In fact, I picked up 3 books at the bookstore in the airport. Like I'm one of those
Excellent.
people that just was like,
Yeah.
this one and this one.
I'll do it with 20 bags. Books in my bag, and I'll be like, ooh, that looks good. I'll get that one.
Little known fact, I'm a book fair nut.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love it.
I do the Queenie Park Book Fair every year.
Yeah.
I could be there for hours.
You can find stuff. That you wouldn't find anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like that's what's great
Out of
about
print
those
books, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Holland, what moves you to tears or gives you goosebumps?
I think lately kindness. Just people seem very stressed and up. And I don't say negatively uptight. Just everybody is really tense right now, and just some genuine kindness right now and some patience. It moves me like it didn't before.
What was your childhood dream?
Travel. Like I always just wanted to be somewhere else, not in a bad way. Grew up in a really small town in Kentucky, bourbon capital. If you come see us. But I just always wanted to be exploring other places. And so I luckily have gotten to do that. And I look forward to doing that again when all this is past us.
What are you working towards that you could use help with?
I would say the nonprofit is the first thing that comes to my mind, is just still trying to figure out ways, because there's no shortage of schools that are underserved right now that could use the opportunity to connect with an author, and that would just be amazing.
What do you spend too much time doing?
That one's tough. I want to say reading, but it's part of the job, so I can justify it sometimes. I worry about silly little things. Like if there's one email that I got that there was a dissatisfied customer, like I marinate on that, and it just is silly. And I want to be able to focus on not the one, and we all do it, and it's so silly, and it's such a waste of time. But I do spend a lot of time on like just that one little thing, and I want to stop that.
Last question. What is your perfect day?
My perfect day, an iced coffee always to start, even in the middle of winter. I like an iced coffee. Friends, water, anywhere if I can get to water, whether it's cold or whether I'm a much more ocean lake person than I am the mountains person. So as long as that's somewhere near me, with some good friends, good food, good drinks, I'm pretty easy to please.
So bourbon.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for being on the show. But before we let you go, how can people find the Novel Neighbor online and the Noble Neighbor online? And how can they find you on social media?
Sure. All social media channels, we're at Novel Neighbor. Our website is thenovelneighbor.com, and the Noble Neighbor is thenobleneighbor.org.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we're over on Big Bend, which has got a little construction now, but let's go come see us in Webster Groves.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank
This
you,
was
Holly.
lovely.
Thank you for listening to Innovation City. If you like this episode, you can find more episodes at innovationcity.co or anywhere where you watch or listen to podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll see you next week.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye.